So I'd like to think with you for just a minute here about a man who had 3 opportunities to know God. Nebuchadnezzar, remember him? Some of us have been studying Daniel and some of that in our classes, right? So, first opportunity Nebuchadnezzar had was he had a dream. The dream, he wanted to know what the meaning of it was. He didn't know. So he asked all of his, the smartest men, the wise men around him, said, "Hey, I need to know what this means." "Okay, tell us the dream and we'll tell you what it means." "Nope, you tell me what the dream is, you interpret it, and I'll know that the interpretation's right." I think Nebuchadnezzar was a bit of a skeptic. He wanted them to tell him the dream, and he'd know that the interpretation was true. Well, nobody could do that, right? But Daniel is able to, because God reveals to him the meaning of that dream, of the statue, the gold head, and everything that Nebuchadnezzar is, right? So Daniel does that. He reveals to him the dream, tells him what his dream was, tells him what it means, and Nebuchadnezzar is blown away by that. In fact, what he says is, "The king answered and said to Daniel, 'Truly your God is God of gods and Lord of kings and the revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this mystery.'" Nebuchadnezzar was impressed with Daniel's God. From that point on, Nebuchadnezzar served God faithfully the rest of his life. No, not yet, not yet, right? So that was his first opportunity to honor God and submit to God. He doesn't do that. The next story we read about is Nebuchadnezzar meets God another time. This time, Nebuchadnezzar, apparently, him being that head of gold, literally went to his head. He builds a statue taller than this building. Find the tallest tree, and it's taller than that. This huge golden image statue. And so everybody in the kingdom bow down to, the king, Nebuchadnezzar. Puffed up, proud, arrogant, all the, things we, that go along with that. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they refuse. They won't do it. The guys in the kingdom, they tell on him, "Hey, they're not doing this." So Nebuchadnezzar has them thrown into the furnace. Burning hot, fiery hot, tied them up, threw them in, bound into the furnace to kill them, to teach everyone a lesson of who is the most important in this kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar. Well, when he does that, Nebuchadnezzar is looking at that fire, and he sees them go into the fire, and he sees them burn smack up. Nope. In the fire, he sees 4 individuals, separate beings, walking around in there. They're not tied up anymore, walking around. And he says, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out." And they come out, and he looks at them. There's nothing wrong with them. He can't smell anything on them from being in a fire. And Nebuchadnezzar is amazed once again. And he says, Nebuchadnezzar answered, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God." They were going to serve God. And he now knows who God is. And he realizes from the first time he met God, and now this time, that he needs to submit and honor God. Not yet. So that's the second time. His second opportunity. This third time, he has another dream. And the dream is this tree. It covers the whole earth. Everybody's under this and takes shade and refuge, and everyone's happy and everything's great under this tree. What does this mean? Nebuchadnezzar wants to know. Daniel again reveals it to him, and he tells him from God, "You're the tree." And Nebuchadnezzar likes hearing that. Everybody's coming to me. And then Daniel says, as the words come out of his mouth, as he's talking, and he's puffed up and proud, as the words come out of his mouth, the Lord, he meets God a third time. And this time, he is given the mind of an animal. And he goes and he lives out, and his everything's gone, and he's living, out and about, and he has everything he has is gone, and he's living a very debased and very humbled life. And after a time of that, he comes to himself, and he comes back, and at the end he says, "Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, I praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are right and his ways are just, and those who walk in pride he is able to humble." And later on, when his son's on the throne, Daniel's called again, and Daniel's an old man by now. He tells his son, who's the king, he tells Belshazzar, he said that your father, he came to know that the Most High God rules the kingdom of mankind and sets even it, and sets over it when he wills. Nebuchadnezzar, for a third time, meets God. This time, it's the last thing we know about him, he honors God. He praises God. Question for us is, how many times is it going to take me? All right? That's the question for each of us. We know God. We find out about God. We learn about God. We see. We understand what He's done. We understand the love that He's had through His plan of salvation. And we look at that and we walk away from it. All right. Number one, opportunity. Maybe something gets us, talks to us, gets us back, says, hey, you need to look at this. This is salvation. This is life and death. This is eternity. It is. So, questions for us. How many times will it take us to know Him, to humble ourselves? It was a hard thing for Nebuchadnezzar. He had a whole lot. He had a whole kingdom. But with all that, he learned the hard way who sets kings on their thrones. For us, the opportunity is here right now. You can make the decision, make the choice, and say, I want to honor God. I want to submit to God. You can do that now if you come and stand while we sing.